Thank you. Thank you. Good to do our photo first.
Nope.
Oh, speak first. Okay. Good morning. It's really amazing to be here where the largest watershed in Contra Costa County joins the largest estuary on the West Coast. Think about that. That's pretty historic. And folks I know here are pretty knowledgeable, understand that the Walnut Creek watershed drains 8 cities and is a very significant area. And we're standing in an area that was really once a dumping ground for dredge spoils, for dredge materials. And I just want to focus for a second on how the people of the Bay Area and the people of this community make these projects happen. Back in 2008, Save San Francisco Bay Association carried state legislation about forming a new agency in the Bay Area called the San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority. And I've been on the authority since it was formed, and I currently serve as the chair. And they had this legislation carried because they had done a study that showed that 90% of our historic tidal wetlands had been lost, right, over the last 150 years. And that we needed to do something about that. And that led to the formation of the authority. And we spent our first 8 years really trying to lay the groundwork for how do we build regional support to fund these types of projects, expensive projects. So in 2016, we developed a place on the ballot, Measure AA, and 70%, think of that, 70% of the voters in the San Francisco Bay Area, in all 9 counties, voted for Measure AA to raise $500 million over 20 years to restore wetlands and improve access and the health of the Bay. I think you can give all of yourselves and Bay Area residents a hand for that, because that is what makes these projects happen. And it shows that we live in a region where people care about the Bay, they care about the environment, they care about habitat, they care about people coming to these places. And I want to acknowledge the leadership of the John Muir Land Trust, working with our flood control district, to actually carry forward this project, because it takes people, it takes leadership to carry these through, and the funding comes to good projects like this. How many of you were here in 2021 when the levee was breached? Wow, great. I couldn't make it, but I hear there was a great event. And, you know, it brought the water back to this marsh after all those years of this being really a more of a waste site. And I think it's important to acknowledge that when public agencies, nonprofits, and the private sector with public support and funding come together, we can do amazing things. And this project's not just about the habitat value or a place where birds and wildlife and plants and people can all thrive. It develops greater public support for these types of projects. It builds in values of environmental stewardship and values of why it is so important to invest in the future, as we heard from so many speakers, because this project has a legacy that will benefit future generations. And I always think back to the fact that we did some early polling before we put Measure AA on the ballot. We found that the overwhelming majority of residents around the Bay, whether they live near the Bay or not, valued the importance of the Bay to our economy, to our culture, to our recreation. And that the Bay is this unifying feature we have. And I am so proud that all of the individuals and agencies that have made this project happen are confirming the trust that the voters placed in all of us as public representatives to invest public dollars wisely and create amazing projects like this. So I'm really, really happy to see all of you who've had a large part of this and take credit for making these types of legacy projects happen. And it allows us to go back to voters and say, yes, we need funding for these types of projects. Right now, the authority is actually working on a project to create a horizontal levee on the North Richmond, West Contra Costa shoreline. There was an idea developed by residents. So there's so many very important projects on the Bay Area that we need to fund, and we're going to need more funding to do that. And all of the parties that really contributed to this project have been great partners for most of these projects around the Bay. So thank you, and thanks for your leadership. It happens because of people like yourself, with your board, with your volunteers, with your donors, with your staff, and all of the other organizations that are here. And I recognize many of you who are doing so many things. I know I'm not supposed to talk about other people, but there's a gentleman here, Bruce Byard, from Trails for Richmond Action Committee, and that organization has been responsible for creating more Bay Trail in the Bay Area than any other county because of leadership of people in organizations. That's what it takes, and all of you can make a difference despite what's happening in Washington. Thanks. Thank you. Great. Okay. Here, let me get hair out of our face.
Great.